The United States generates the most plastic waste of any country in the world. While we have just 4% of the world's population, we create 17% of its plastic waste. And yet, we don't manage much of this here at home. Where does it all go? In 2016, over 1.5 million metric tons of U.S. plastic waste flowed into coastal environments around the world. That's about the weight of 60 Statues of Liberty entering our ocean in a single year. How does all this waste end up in coastal environments where it can harm marine wildlife and the health of our ocean? One culprit most of us know well. Approximately 840,000 metric tons comes from littering. Up to 410,000 metric tons comes from illegal dumping. The last source is one that has not been closely tracked until now. The U.S. creates a lot of plastic waste. We'd like to think that it's being recycled here at home, but unfortunately, that's not the case. The reality is that the U.S. ships upwards of 1 million metric tons of plastic waste overseas, primarily to countries in Asia. In fact, until recently, when some countries stopped accepting our plastics, the U.S. was shipping more than half of its plastic waste to countries in Asia alone. The problem is that a lot of our recyclables aren't actually recyclable at all. Things like dirty food containers, thin plastic films, and multi-layer packaging. Making matters worse, many of the countries importing our plastic waste don't have sufficient ability to manage it. That means some of the waste we send over ends up polluting our ocean. However, once the U.S. ships its waste overseas, it is rarely held responsible for what happens to it. Traditionally, when we tally ocean plastic pollution by country, we don't count U.S. exports as part of its contribution to the problem. When you take exports into account, the United States may be a top 3 ocean plastic polluter. We need to shut off the tap. The United States has the power to drastically curb ocean plastic pollution by reducing how much plastic waste it generates and taking responsibility for that waste at home. So what can we do to clean up our act? We need to eliminate unnecessary single-use plastic packaging, especially those types most commonly found on beaches and in waterways, like bags, straws, and foam takeaway containers. We can change delivery models like providing refillable bottles that can be used time and time again. When plastics are the only option, we need to ensure the materials used can actually be recycled in the communities where they are sold. Right now, a lot of our plastic waste isn't recycled because it's easier and cheaper for companies to just use new raw materials. By making products easier to recycle and requiring minimum recycled content standards in products and packaging, we can increase demand for recycled plastics and reduce our need for new plastics production. What can you do to become an advocate for trash-free seas? Find ways you can reduce plastic waste at home. Tell your elected officials that you support policies that eliminate unnecessary single-use plastics and drastically increase recycling in the U.S. Find out how you can get involved at wecleanon.org.